Tate had forgotten about his mother and that interloper, Riley. Noah was out cold. There was no inclination that Noah knew where he was. Tate felt bad that he might have been too rough on Noah, but his ex-buddy was smiling in his sleep. Tate found his clothes and redressed, and then he combed his hair. Noah roused 3 minutes later. "Riley, what happened?" Tate froze, holding the comb next to his ear. Noah saw the wrong guy in the bedroom and he looked away. "I need to go to Riley," Noah finally said, crawling off the spare room bed. Tate's arms tightened around him. "No, stay here and I'll make an excuse downstairs. I'll be back up in a few minutes." "No," Noah shook his head. "Riley needs me so, I'm sure." Noah turned to face him, his eyes meeting Tate's. "What we have, this isn't something I can walk towards. I don't want to walk away from Riley." Talia's sharp voice broke Tate from his post-orgasmic bliss. "Boys, get down here and stop roughhousing. Riley is ready to take a tour of the house, so come here. Tate, leave Noah alone if you can't play nice." Noah shook his head again, jaw tight with frustration. "This isn't happening again, Tate. It was a mistake. I don't need complications while planning a wedding, so stay away from me." He yanked a shirt over his head and angrily dressed at the edge of the bed, movements sharp and careless. Tate sat motionless in nothing but his shorts, watching him with a hollow expression that only made Noah more irritated. The silence between them felt thick, broken only by the rustle of fabric and Noah's uneven breathing. "Tate, I mean it." Noah shoved his foot into a shoe without looking at it. "Whatever this is, it's over." Tate finally stood, slow and uncertain, his eyes fixed on Noah like he was watching something slip out of reach. "You keep calling it a mistake like that's supposed to erase it." "It should," Noah snapped instantly. "But it doesn't," Tate's voice lowered, "not for me." Noah grabbed his jacket off the floor, refusing to look directly at him now. That was the problem. Looking at Tate too long made his resolve weaker than he wanted it to be. "I'm marrying Riley." Talia's voice suddenly rose from downstairs. Tatum Joseph Cornelius Blue. Tate froze. Noah blinked. "Stop annoying Noah and get down here," Talia shouted. "Can't you two talk things out like normal people? The walls are shaking." Tate slowly looked toward the door. Noah pressed his lips together, fighting a laugh. "Tatum," Talia called again, "I am not asking a third time." Tate sighed. "Yes, mother." "Good, now get downstairs before I come up there myself." Tate muttered something under his breath. Noah finally laughed. "What?" Tate asked. "Nothing." "You're laughing at me." "No." "You absolutely are." From downstairs came Talia's voice again. "I can still hear both of you." Tate closed his eyes. "This is humiliating." Noah grinned. "For once I agree with your mother." The words landed hard in the room. Tate swallowed, shoulders tense. "So that's it, you just pretend none of this ever happened." "Yes." Noah moved for the door, but Tate stepped forward instinctively before stopping himself at the last second, fists clenching at his sides instead of reaching for him. The restraint looked painful. "Noah." "Don't." Noah opened the door. "You said you cared about me, then let me go." Tate shook his head slowly, running a hand through his hair like he was trying to steady himself. "I already lived the conventional life, Noah. Wife, white picket fence, smiling in-laws, engagement announcements taped to the refrigerator." He gave a humorless laugh. "I did all of it." Noah kept dressing, refusing to give him more than a glance as he buttoned his pants with irritated, jerky movements. "Good for you." "You think I'm joking?" Tate asked quietly. "You think I'm trying to ruin your life because I'm bored? I think you don't know when to stop." Tate leaned back against the dresser, eyes fixed on Noah. The anger rolling off Noah should have pushed him away, but instead, Tate found himself watching the flashes of pale skin that disappeared as Noah dressed. The line of Noah's waist vanished beneath the waistband of his pants. His shirt fell back into place. Every second felt like a door closing. "I'm serious," Tate said. "That life didn't hold Chloe and me together because pretending to be happy isn't enough. You can play straight domestic fantasy all you want, but eventually it cracks." Noah scoffed loudly. "You don't know anything about my relationship." "I know that look." "What look?" "The one where you're trying to convince yourself harder than you're convincing me." Noah spun around sharply. "You think this is about me secretly wanting excitement or drama? That's arrogance, Tate. I think you're terrified of being honest." And I think you're projecting your marriage woes onto me. The words hit harder than Noah intended. Tate's jaw flexed once, but he didn't lash out. You really believe marrying Riley fixes everything? Tate asked after a moment. It's not supposed to fix anything. It's called growing up and desiring an equal to share my life. Tate laughed again under his breath. That's exactly what I told myself when I got married. Noah grabbed his belt off the bed. Stop comparing me to you. Why? Because you hear how similar it sounds. No, because unlike you, I actually know what I want. Tate's eyes narrowed slightly. Do you? Yes. Then why are you shaking? Noah froze for half a second before aggressively threading the belt through the loops of his pants. I'm not. You are. Tate stepped closer, voice softer now. You've been angry since the second you woke up because anger's easier than admitting you felt something. I didn't. That's a lie. Noah looked away first, which only encouraged Tate. You kissed me back, Tate continued carefully. You held on to me like you didn't want me to stop. It shouldn't have happened. But it did. And it was a mistake. Tate's expression tightened. You keep saying that like repetition makes it true. Noah slammed the belt buckle shut. What do you want from me? Seriously, you want me to throw away my entire life because of one night? No, Tate's voice dropped lower. I want you to stop acting like you're sleepwalking into a future you don't even sound excited about. I love Riley. Tate studied him for a long moment. Maybe you do. The answer caught Noah off guard. But love isn't always the same thing as compatibility, genuine sentiment, and satisfactory relationship longevity, Tate added. Noah rolled his eyes immediately, though his chest felt tight. You sound insane. Maybe, Tate shrugged faintly, but at least I'm honest. Noah grabbed his jacket and shoved his arms into it angrily. You know what your problem is? You think because your marriage is on the rocks, everybody else's eventually will too. That's not my problem. Then what is? Tate looked at him directly, watching you walk towards something that already makes you miserable. I'm not miserable. You haven't smiled once while talking about your wedding. Noah opened his mouth then stopped. Tate noticed immediately. That's what scares you, Tate said quietly. Not me, not this, the fact that part of you knows I might be right. No, Noah moved toward the door. What scares me is how determined you are to destroy every boundary I set. I'm not trying to destroy your boundaries, Tate said. That's not what I'm doing. He paused, watching Noah carefully. I'm trying to figure out whether they're actually boundaries, or whether you're using the word boundary because it gives you a safe way to avoid what you really want. Noah's expression tightened. Tate continued, quieter now. There's a difference between saying I don't want this and saying I'm not allowed to want this. Those aren't the same thing. He leaned back, studying Noah's reaction. Maybe you genuinely don't want it. If that's the case, I'll respect it. But if you do want it and you're choosing the safe route because it's predictable, acceptable, or expected, then that isn't necessarily a boundary. That might just be you selecting the choice you think you're supposed to make. Tate's voice softened. I'm not asking you to choose me, I'm asking you to be honest with yourself about what you're choosing, and why. Tate stood there for a long moment, watching Noah as though he were trying to see past every answer Noah had already given him. Do you really want Riley? Tate asked quietly, or do you want the life Riley would give you? Noah's eyes immediately shifted away. That was the first reaction Tate noticed. Not anger. Not denial. Avoidance. Noah looked down at his hands, rubbing his thumb slowly across his palm. That's not fair. I didn't say it was. You're making it sound like I don't know what I want. I'm saying I'm not sure you've given yourself permission to figure it out. Noah swallowed. Tate continued. Perhaps you don't want any of these choices. Maybe that's the part nobody is asking you. Everyone keeps asking you which person you're going to choose, but what if you don't actually want either choice? What if you're standing there believing you have to pick someone simply because everyone has decided that eventually you have to? Noah's breathing changed. Barely. But Tate saw it. His shoulders rose slightly with the inhale, and when he exhaled it was slow and controlled, as though he were trying to keep something from escaping with his breath. I don't know, Noah whispered. Tate's expression softened. Exactly. Noah looked up sharply. Don't do that. Do what? Act like you figured me out. I haven't figured you out. You're talking like you have. I'm talking about what I see. And what do you see? Tate hesitated. I see someone who is terrified of making the wrong choice. Noah went still. Tate continued before Noah could interrupt. You might choose the person who is least likely to make you regret choosing them. You might choose the person who is least likely to hurt you. You might choose the person who has already demonstrated that they want you because at least then you know where you stand. Noah's jaw tightened. Riley wants you, Tate said. You know that, there's no mystery there. He chose you, he pursued you, he made it clear that he wanted a life with you. Noah looked away again. And maybe that certainty feels safer than wanting someone whose feelings you can't predict. Noah's eyes flickered back toward Tate. Tate held his gaze. Maybe you're so terrified of making a choice that you'll never choose what you actually want because the things you've wanted in the past have always hurt you. Noah's face changed. The words landed somewhere deeper than the conversation about Riley. His mouth opened but nothing came out. Tate's voice became quieter. You've always wanted me. Noah immediately looked down. There it was. The reaction Tate had been waiting for. Not denial. Pain. Noah's fingers curled against his palm. I didn't know, Tate said. That's the part I need you to understand. I hurt you, but I didn't know you wanted me. I didn't understand what was happening inside you. Noah's eyes became glassy. You still hurt me. I know. You hurt me badly. I know. And knowing that doesn't make it better. No, Tate said, it doesn't. Noah stared at him. Tate didn't defend himself. That somehow made it worse. Noah had expected an argument. He had expected Tate to explain himself, to insist that he hadn't meant it, to remind Noah that he couldn't have responded to feelings he didn't know existed. Instead, Tate simply stood there and accepted it. I wanted you, Noah finally said. Tate nodded. I know that now. I wanted you for years. I know. And every time I thought maybe, Noah stopped. His voice cracked. He looked away quickly, embarrassed by the emotion. Every time I thought maybe you might want me too, something happened, you disappeared, you chose someone else, you treated me like I was nothing more than a friend. Tate's face tightened. Noah laughed once bitterly. So forgive me if Riley feels safer. Tate didn't answer immediately. Noah wiped at his eye with the heel of his hand and became visibly frustrated with himself. I know what you're going to say. What? That safe doesn't mean right. Tate shook his head. No, I was going to say that safe doesn't automatically mean wrong either. Noah looked at him. But I think you're choosing safety because you're afraid of what happens when you don't. Noah's expression hardened. And what's wrong with that? Nothing. Then why are you questioning it? Because I don't think you're only protecting yourself. Noah frowned. I think you're protecting yourself from the possibility of being rejected again. Silence. Tate stepped closer but stopped before invading Noah's space. You don't have to choose me, he said. You don't owe me that, you don't even have to want me. Noah stared at him. But if you don't want Riley, Tate continued, and you don't want me and you don't actually want the life you're being offered, then choosing Riley simply because he is the person least likely to reject you isn't necessarily a choice made from love. Noah's eyes dropped. It could be a choice made from fear. Noah's breathing became uneven. And I think you're afraid that if you choose what you really want, you'll eventually lose it. Noah closed his eyes. Because that was the part he couldn't argue with. He had spent years learning that wanting something made it dangerous. Wanting Tate had hurt. Trusting people had hurt. Hopping had hurt. Every time Noah had allowed himself to imagine that perhaps something could finally be his, something had happened to remind him that wanting wasn't the same thing as keeping. So, Riley had become appealing in a way that Noah hadn't known how to explain. Riley wanted him. Riley had chosen him. Riley wasn't a question mark. Riley wasn't a possibility that might disappear tomorrow. Riley was certain. And certainly, Noah had learned, could feel a lot like love when you were exhausted from being afraid. Noah opened his eyes. What if you're wrong? Tate's answer came immediately. Then I'm wrong. And what if Riley really is what I want? Then choose Riley. Noah stared at him. You'd let me. Tate's expression shifted. I don't own you, Noah. Noah looked down again. Then why does this feel like you're asking me not to? Because I'm asking you to make the choice honestly. Noah was silent. Tate's voice softened. Not because Riley is safe, not because I'm dangerous, not because you think you're supposed to pick the person who wants you, not because you're afraid that if you reach for what you really want, you'll get hurt again. Noah swallowed hard. But because Riley is the person you genuinely want. Noah looked at him for a long time. Tate's expression faltered slightly at that. I'm trying to warn you away from making the same mistake I made, he said. You don't get to decide what's a mistake for me. Noah. No, Noah pointed toward the room behind Tate. You stay here, you stay away from me, and whatever happened last night dies in this room. Tate stared at him for a long moment, breathing unevenly. Then quietly. You already know it won't. Noah angrily shoved his foot into his tennis shoe, nearly crushing the back of it in the process. You've never been in love, Tate. The words landed harder than shouting would have. Tate's face darkened slightly, but he stayed where he was near the dresser, arms folded tightly across his chest. You don't know that. No, I do. Noah tied the laces with sharp, furious pulls. Because if you actually loved someone, you'd know love alone doesn't magically make a relationship good. Tate scoffed quietly, so now you're an expert. I'm more of an expert than you are. Noah stood, grabbing the second shoe off the floor. His hands shook faintly from anger as he jammed it on. You think this is romantic, Noah continued bitterly. You think feelings are enough to justify all the damage you cause. I never said that. You didn't have to, Noah looked up at him finally. You love the wrong people, Tate. You cling to them until they can't breathe, then act shocked when they leave. Tate's jaw tightened. And even when someone stays, Noah said, voice lowering, you take them for granted. That's not true. It is. Noah stood fully now, towering anger replacing the hesitation from earlier. You never saw me as anything except someone who warmed your bed when it was convenient for you. Tate looked genuinely stung by that. That's not what you were to me. Really? Noah laughed harshly. Because when I was 18, I went to my birthday party and realized exactly how bad you were for me. Tate's expression shifted slightly. You got your needs met, Noah continued, voice trembling with anger now. You disappeared upstairs with some girl on my night while I spent half the party downstairs by myself. Tate blinked once. Noah. No, you don't get to interrupt this, Noah pointed at him sharply. I remember standing there wondering why I even invited you when you acted like I was the least important person in the room. That isn't what happened. It is from my side. Noah grabbed his jacket off the chair. That was the night I realized how exhausting you are. Tate pushed off the dresser. You think Riley's different? Yes. You barely know him. I know enough. Tate laughed bitterly under his breath. You know the version of him that exists before real life starts crushing things. It wasn't just Emily, Noah said. Tate stopped. I don't care about her, I never have, and she wasn't even the only girl you tried to put in my life. Noah's expression hardened. There was the girl you found at the university, the one you decided should be the person I lost my virginity to. And before that, there was another girl you brought around because you thought she could somehow make me comfortable with women. Tate's face tightened. You kept finding women for me, Noah continued. As though the problem was that I simply hadn't met the right one yet. You thought if you put the right girl in front of me, eventually something would click. He shook his head. I realized then that you didn't know me at all. Tate looked down. You were a straight boy who wanted a gay boy to lose his virginity to a woman. You didn't understand what you were asking me to do. You didn't understand why I couldn't simply walk into a room with some girl you'd chosen and suddenly become attracted to her. Noah laughed bitterly. You didn't know me, you still don't. He looked directly at Tate. You couldn't read the freaking room, you thought I liked Mark in a romantic way. Tate's eyes flickered. You have no gaydar, Noah said. None. It took you 20 years to realize that I could even be an option for you. He shook his head. Oh, good for you, you finally realized I'm here. Noah's voice became colder. Except the store closed. Tate stared at him. The store that has my name on it is closed. It's been out of business for years, so you can just go. He swallowed hard. Whatever was there that would have been yours, whatever could have been something we shared, is gone. I buried it, I grieved it, I mourned it. Noah's eyes filled with tears. I don't want it anymore. He looked at Tate for a long moment. If something hurts that much and I get nothing in return, why would I want that thing anymore? Tate said nothing. Just because you love someone doesn't mean they're right for you. Just because you dream about them and wish they cared about you doesn't mean you should give them another chance to destroy you. His voice broke. And regardless of who I love, it doesn't really matter who I love. Noah looked away. Because the Tate I wanted to be with never existed. He closed his eyes. And I've already grieved him. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Noah looked at him, and something in his expression made Tate realize that this wasn't going to be another argument about Riley. Noah wasn't trying to convince him of anything anymore. He was explaining a decision that had already been made. I'm tired of your double standards, Noah finally said. Tate's eyebrows drew together. Noah continued before he could respond. You had all the opportunity in the world. His voice was calm. 20 years. Tate looked down. 20 years to feel something, 20 years to say something, 20 years to act on something, 20 years to look at me and wonder if there was something more between us. Noah shook his head. And you never did. Tate swallowed. Noah watched him carefully. And there's only one reason for that. Tate's eyes lifted. You didn't find me attractive. Tate immediately shook his head. Noah. No, let me finish. Tate stopped. You didn't want me as anything beyond your friend. Noah said it without accusation. And that's perfectly fine. Tate stared at him. It really is. Noah's voice softened. It's not your fault that I felt differently. That sentence seemed to hurt Tate more than the accusations would have. Because Noah wasn't giving him anything to defend himself against. He wasn't calling him cruel. He wasn't saying Tate had deliberately rejected him. He was saying something much more painful. You simply didn't feel what I felt. And that's where I've always been unfair to you, Noah continued, because I changed the rules without telling you. Tate's expression shifted. I knew what I felt. Noah looked down. I knew what I wanted, but you didn't, and somehow I expected you to figure it out anyway. He gave a small, humorless laugh. I expected you to see something that I wasn't actually telling you. Tate's eyes lowered. I was 8 when I first started feeling it, Noah said. Tate went still. At 8 years old, I didn't understand what it was. I just knew that being around you felt different. I knew I wanted you around me all the time. I knew you were the person I looked for first. His voice became quieter. And by the time I was around 15, I started understanding what that feeling actually meant. Tate's face tightened. I started realizing that you probably weren't going to be able to give me what I needed. He paused. And that wasn't your fault. Tate looked at him. It wasn't. Noah's eyes were wet now. You were being yourself. I was the one who kept changing the rules. Tate's lips parted. I expected you to somehow know that the friendship we'd always had become something different to me. He shook his head. I expected you to notice. A bitter smile crossed his face. You couldn't even tell I was gay. Tate flinched. You thought I liked Mark. Noah looked at him. You thought Emily might be what I needed. Tate closed his eyes briefly. You couldn't read the room, you couldn't read me, and I kept getting angrier because I thought you were deliberately ignoring something that was obvious. Noah's voice softened. But it wasn't obvious to you. Tate opened his eyes. I understand that now. Noah nodded. I wish I'd understood it then. The room became quiet. Because somewhere around 15, I started realizing that you weren't going to give me what I needed. Tate looked down. And I stayed anyway. Noah's voice trembled. I stayed because I loved you. Tate's jaw tightened. But I also started preparing myself to live without you. He took a slow breath. And that's what happened. Tate stared at him. I started falling out of love with you when I was 18. The words landed heavily. 10 years ago. Tate's face changed. The Emily incident was part of it. Tate looked away. Then the Tina tantrum. His jaw tightened. And then we moved into the Rambler. Noah paused. Those weren't isolated moments to me, they accumulated. Tate's eyes returned to him. Every one of them taught me something. What? That wanting you wasn't enough. Tate went silent. Noah continued. I could love you as much as I wanted, I could wait, I could hope, I could imagine a future, but none of that meant you were going to suddenly become capable of giving me what I needed. He swallowed. And eventually, I stopped expecting you to. Tate's eyes were beginning to shine. I fell out of love with you slowly. Noah's voice was almost apologetic. Not because you did one terrible thing. He shook his head. It was years of realizing that the person I needed you to be wasn't who you were. Tate whispered, I'm sorry. I know. And if I'd known. But you didn't. Noah stopped him. And that's the point. He looked directly into Tate's eyes. You didn't know. Tate's expression crumpled slightly. You couldn't have responded to something you didn't understand. Noah breathed out. So I don't blame you. A long silence followed. But I also can't pretend that the last 10 years didn't happen. Tate nodded slowly. I've fallen out of love with you, Tate. Tate closed his eyes. The sentence seemed to physically hurt. Noah watched him. And there was still a tiny part of me that hoped. Tate opened his eyes. Even after everything. Noah gave him a faint, sad smile. I never let myself admit it, it was barely even hope. More like a little smidge of possibility I refused to look at directly. Tate stared at him. Maybe someday. His voice broke. Maybe somehow. Then Noah's expression changed. But 2 years ago that died. Tate knew immediately what he meant. The note. Noah nodded. That stupid note. Tate looked down. You got engaged, later you got married, whatever. Noah shrugged, though his eyes betrayed how much it had once mattered. And I met Riley. Tate's face tightened. That combination killed whatever was left. He shook his head. Any chance, any hope, any possibility that maybe things could change someday. Noah looked at Tate. It died there. Tate looked devastated. Not because Riley somehow stole me from you. Noah's voice was firm. You weren't competing with him. Tate looked up. You lost me before Riley ever became part of the equation. That silenced him. I met Riley after I had already spent years learning to live without you. Noah continued. Riley simply showed me that there was another kind of life available to me. Tate looked away. A nice guy. Noah smiled faintly. A nice guy who wants me. He paused. A nice life. His expression softened. And I want that. Tate swallowed. I don't want drama anymore. Noah's voice became gentle. I don't want to spend another 10 years wondering whether you'll eventually realize something about me. He shook his head. I don't want to wait for another revelation. Tate whispered, and there's nothing I can do. Noah's eyes softened. No. The answer was quiet. Not because you're a bad person. Tate looked at him. Not because I don't care about you. Noah's voice cracked. And not because what we had wasn't real. He took a breath. It's because I already lived through the part where I wanted you. Tate stared at him. And now I'm living through the part where I don't. Noah stepped closer. You've had 2 years. Tate's eyes lowered. 2 years to move on. Noah's expression was almost pleading now. So please. Tate looked up. Close that chapter. The words were gentle. Don't keep reopening it because you finally reached the page where I used to be. Tate's eyes filled. Noah reached out and squeezed his shoulder. I don't want to lose you. Tate looked at him. I really don't. Noah smiled sadly. But I also don't want to turn our childhood friendship into something complicated because we spent 20 years missing each other. Tate breathed in slowly. So let's stop trying to change what we are. Noah held his gaze. Let's stay childhood buddies. Tate didn't answer. Noah smiled faintly. That was always something we were good at. Tate finally nodded. And Noah knew from the look in his eyes that Tate understood. Not because Tate agreed, but because, for once, he could finally see that Noah wasn't asking him to choose differently. He was asking him to accept that the choice had already been made. At least Riley makes me feel safe. The sentence silenced the room. Tate stared at him. Noah swallowed hard but didn't back down. With Riley, he continued, quieter now, I don't feel watched every second. I don't feel owned. I don't feel like I'm constantly being dragged into whatever emotional storm you're trapped in. I never wanted to own you. No, Noah shot back instantly. Then why does every boundary I set make you furious? Tate opened his mouth, then shut it again. Noah shook his head. Riley is the best thing I've done in years. That's what scares me, Tate muttered. Noah ignored him. Uncle Joey. Tate visibly flinched. The reaction was immediate and involuntary, his shoulders tightening as he stepped toward Noah before stopping himself. Would have liked Riley, Noah finished firmly. Joey would have supported me marrying Riley because he actually knew what was best for me. Tate's eyes hardened. Joey told me to leave you alone, Noah continued. He was right. Noah turned and walked toward the spare room door, but Tate's bitter laugh stopped him halfway there. You're right, Noah, Tate said coldly. Uncle Joey would have loved Riley, Noah glanced back. Because it would be a dig at me, Tate's voice sharpened with old resentment. Joey loved getting one over on me even from the grave. That's disgusting. It's true. No, it's pathetic. Tate stepped closer again, emotion finally breaking through the restraint in his face. You think Joey cared about what made you happy? Joey cared about controlling narratives. He hated me, so of course he pushed you toward the safe little golden boy future. You don't get to talk about him like that. Tate gave a sharp laugh. I knew Joey better than you did. No, you knew the version of him you hated. I knew exactly who he was, Tate snapped. A rich playboy who thought with his dick instead of his brain. Noah's face hardened instantly. Don't. He floated through life doing whatever felt good in the moment, and everybody excused it because he was charming. You don't get to reduce him to that. And you don't get to rewrite him into some saint because he sided against me. And somehow, Noah shot back, he still understood me better than you ever did. That one hit. Tate looked away sharply, nostrils flaring once. Noah took advantage of the silence. Joey saw exactly what you were. And what am I? Tate asked quietly. Noah hesitated. Tate laughed bitterly at the pause. Go ahead. A person who ruins things. The room fell silent again. Tate looked at him for several long seconds, something wounded and angry mixing together behind his eyes. Then he nodded once. Maybe, he admitted quietly, but if I ruin things so badly, Noah, why do you still look like leaving hurts? Noah scoffed sharply, though his eyes already looked glassy with emotion. Joey would know the right thing to do. Tate flinched again. It was subtle this time, just a tightening around his mouth, a brief flicker in his eyes, but Noah noticed it immediately. That's the problem with you, Noah continued, voice unsteady now. You can't stand that somebody besides you actually cared about me. That's not true. It is. Noah wiped quickly at his face in frustration before tears could fully fall. I need distance from you, Tate, real distance, because whatever this is between us, he gestured angrily between them, it's unhealthy. Tate's expression darkened. We share this weird trauma bond, Noah said. That's all this is. Years of grief and confusion and dependency tangled together until neither of us knows how to let go. Tate stared at him silently. Noah sniffled despite himself and looked away. I miss Joey. The confession came out quieter than the rest. He was like, Noah swallowed hard, he was like a dad or older brother to me sometimes, so stop talking about him like he was garbage. Tate's jaw flexed. I hated Joey. Noah looked stunned. What? I hated him, Tate repeated flatly, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise. No, you were jealous of him. Tate gave a cold laugh. Jealous. Yes, Noah pointed at him angrily. You hated how close we were, you hated that he mattered to me. That's not why I hated him. It absolutely is, Noah's voice cracked with emotion. Joey actually showed up for me, he listened to me, he protected me when nobody else did. And he made damn sure you trusted him more than anyone. Because he earned it. Tate stepped forward. Noah, Joey inserted himself into every part of your life. Because he cared. Because he needed to be needed. Noah shook his head furiously. You always did this. Every time somebody got close to me, you found a reason to resent them. That is not what this is. It's exactly what this is. Noah's breathing became uneven again. You couldn't stand that I loved him. Tate laughed bitterly. Loved him? Noah, half the time Joey treated you less like family and more like some emotional project he needed to rescue. That's disgusting. It's true. No, it's not. Noah looked genuinely hurt now. You're twisting everything because you can't handle the fact that Joey saw through you. Tate's eyes narrowed. Joey decided I was poison before I ever got the chance to prove otherwise. Maybe because you gave him reasons. Oh, please, Tate rubbed aggressively at his face. Joey acted like he was the only person capable of protecting you from bad decisions. Because somebody had to. The sentence hit hard. Tate went still. Noah realized what he'd implied, but his anger kept him moving forward anyway. Joey worried about me constantly, Noah continued. He knew how easy it was for me to get pulled into your chaos. My chaos, Tate repeated quietly. Yes, Noah's eyes filled again. You make everything intense and confusing and impossible to think clearly about. And Joey made everything simple, Tate scoffed. Good people versus bad people, me versus him. At least Joey cared if I was hurting. Tate stared at him for a long moment before speaking again. You really think I was jealous of him? I know you were. Tate laughed once under his breath, but there was no humor in it. Fine, maybe part of me was. Noah blinked slightly, not expecting the admission. Tate looked away briefly before continuing. You'd light up around him in ways you never did around anybody else. He could calm you down in 5 minutes. You trusted him blindly. Noah shook his head and shot back at Tate with honesty and righteous indignation. Because he loved me. And because he made himself impossible for you to question. Noah shook his head immediately. You just couldn't stand not being the center of my world. That's not fair. No, Noah stepped closer now, too. You hated that there was one person I listened to more than you. Tate's silence sliced the air between them. Heavy with things unsaid. Noah let out a shaky breath. God. What? You really were jealous. Tate's jaw tightened again. I was angry because Joey spent years feeding you this idea that I would ruin your life. Maybe he believed it. And now you do too. Noah looked away. That's what kills me, Tate admitted more quietly. Not that Joey hated me, I could live with that. His eyes locked onto Noah's again. It's that eventually you started looking at me through his eyes. Noah's expression faltered slightly. You think this is all some trauma bond, Tate continued. But half the reason you panic every time we get close is that Joey taught you closeness with me was dangerous. No, Noah whispered weakly, you taught me that yourself. Tate flinched. The hurt on his face appeared instantly before he could hide it. Noah swallowed hard, tears threatening again. Joey was there for me after every fight, every breakdown, every time you made me feel small. And did he ever tell you maybe you hurt me too? Tate asked quietly. Noah frowned. Did he ever once admit relationships are messy and not just one person saving the other? He was trying to protect me. He was trying to keep you. That's not true. Isn't it? Noah shook his head immediately. You don't get to reduce what we had. Tate hissed. And you don't get to pretend Joey was some flawless saint who never manipulated emotions. He didn't manipulate me. Tate exhaled sharply. Noah, Joey loved being the person you ran to. Because he cared whether I survived. The room went silent. Noah looked emotionally wrecked now, chest rising unevenly. He made me feel safe, Noah whispered. Tate's expression softened despite everything. I know. Noah wiped angrily at his eyes. So, stop talking about him like he was terrible just because you hated him. Tate was quiet for a moment. Then finally. I hated him because every time I got close to you, he was there reminding you why you shouldn't trust me. Noah stared at him. And the worst part, Tate laughed bitterly to himself, maybe he was right sometimes. That answer took some of the fight out of Noah instantly. Tate looked exhausted now instead of angry. But Joey's gone, he said quietly, and I think part of you still lets him make decisions for you. Noah's face tightened again, he knew me better than anybody. Tate nodded faintly, maybe. Noah flinched. Tate's voice changed. There was no humor in it now, no teasing, no attempt to soften what he was about to say. It was pure jealousy, sharpened by years of resentment. The best day of my 20s, Tate said, his voice low and venomous, was the day I found out Joey wouldn't be around anymore to take you away from me. Noah went completely still. Tate continued. Joey being dead meant he couldn't be competition anymore, he couldn't have your attention, he couldn't have your thoughts, he couldn't have your love, he couldn't have your time. Noah stared at him. For several seconds he couldn't even process the words. You were jealous of Joey. Tate's jaw tightened. Of course I was. No, Noah whispered, you were jealous of Joey. Tate looked away. Every time he was around I felt like I had to dodge him just to get near you. He already had everything I wanted, your attention, your admiration, your affection. You looked at him differently. Noah's face went pale. Joey was your uncle. I know. He loved you. I know that too. And you were waiting for him to die so you could have me to yourself. Tate didn't answer immediately. That silence was answer enough. Noah stepped backward, visibly shaken. He had spent years believing Tate's jealousy was something new, something born from the complicated feelings that had surfaced between them recently. But it wasn't new. It had been there all along. Buried beneath 20 years of companionship, arguments, jokes, and everything Tate had refused to name. You were competing with a dead man, Noah said quietly. Tate finally looked at him. I was competing with him when he was alive. Noah couldn't speak. For the first time, he understood that Tate's possessiveness hadn't begun with Riley. It hadn't even begun with him. It had been there for years, quietly waiting for Tate to finally admit what it meant. And he would have wanted me with Riley. Probably. Noah looked surprised by the agreement. Tate held his gaze anyway, because Riley is safe, predictable, stable. His expression dimmed slightly. And I think Joey always believed I'd eventually break your heart. Noah's throat tightened. Tate stepped back toward the dresser slowly, his voice rougher now. What I can't figure out, he admitted quietly, is whether you actually love Riley more, or if choosing him just feels like choosing Joey one last time. Tate took a sharp step forward, pointing an accusing finger at Noah. You and Joey were always weirdly close. Noah's expression hardened instantly. Don't. You heard me. No, I heard you say something disgusting because you're angry. Tate ignored him, packing once before turning back. The two of you were always whispering about me, deciding things about me without me there. That's not what happened. It absolutely happened, Tate's voice sharpened. You and Joey were thick as thieves, he could get you to do anything. Noah laughed once in disbelief. You sound insane. Do I? Tate shot back. Every single time Joey decided I was bad for you, suddenly you'd pull away from me too. Because maybe he noticed things I was too blind to see. Tate scoffed loudly. There it is again, Joey the saint, Joey the protector, Joey the wise older man who always knew better than everybody else. You're twisting this because you're jealous. I'm angry because he inserted himself into every part of our relationship. Our relationship? Noah repeated incredulously. You mean the years of confusion and emotional whiplash where you constantly crossed boundaries and then acted hurt when I reacted? Tate's face darkened. That's not all it was. No, Noah pointed toward him now too. Because from my perspective, Joey was the one helping me pick up the pieces every time you blew through my life like a tornado. He loved being your rescuer. He loved me. And he made sure you depended on him emotionally. Because I could depend on him, Noah shouted. Do you know how rare that was for me? Tate looked momentarily thrown by the rawness in Noah's voice, but Noah didn't stop. You think I was manipulated because I listened to him? Noah continued. No, I listened to him because half the time he was the only person actually listening to me. He poisoned you against me. No, Tate, Noah shook his head furiously. You poisoned me against you all by yourself. The words hit hard. Tate looked away briefly before forcing himself to meet Noah's eyes again. Joey hated me from the beginning. Because he saw how intense you were with me. He saw what he wanted to see. He saw me crying after fights with you. Tate flinched. He saw me anxious all the time, wondering what mood you'd be in. Noah's voice shook now, but he pushed through it. He saw how easy it was for you to make me feel guilty for having boundaries. That's not fair. No, Noah laughed bitterly. Then tell me why I constantly felt like I owed you emotional access to me. Tate opened his mouth, then shut it again. That's what Joey noticed, Noah continued. Not some evil conspiracy against you. He noticed I was drowning trying to manage your feelings all the time. Tate's expression tightened. You really believe he was innocent in all this? I think he cared whether I survived you. The sentence knocked the air out of the room. Tate stared at him. Noah's breathing trembled now, tears threatening again. You know what's sad? Joey never even tried to make me hate you. Tate frowned slightly. He didn't, Noah wiped angrily at his eyes. Even after everything, he still told me you loved me in your own messed up way. Tate looked genuinely caught off guard by that. But he also told me love isn't supposed to consume your entire life, Noah added quietly. And with you, it always did. Tate's anger flickered uncertainly for the first time. You make people orbit you, Noah said. Your emotions become the center of every room. Joey hated that because he thought eventually I'd disappear into it. I never wanted you to disappear. But you wanted all of me, Noah's voice cracked, all the time. Silence stretched between them. Then Tate shook his head again. You still don't see it. See what? Joey kept you emotionally tied to him too. Tate stepped closer. You think I was controlling? Joey had opinions about every relationship you had, every decision you made, every person you trusted. Because he cared about me. Because he couldn't let go of being needed. That's human, Tate, Noah exploded. People who love each other get involved in each other's lives. Not like that. Yes, like that, Noah pointed toward himself angrily. Do you know how young I was when things started getting complicated between us? Joey stepped in because somebody had to act like an adult. Tate looked stung again. He wasn't trying to steal me from you, Noah continued more emotionally now. He was trying to protect me while I figured myself out. And conveniently, I was always the thing you needed protection from. Maybe because you kept proving him right. Tate laughed bitterly under his breath. You really think Joey understood you better than I did? In some ways, yes. That answer visibly hurt. Noah softened only slightly when he saw it, but kept going anyway. Joey understood I needed stability sometimes, he said quietly. He understood that I couldn't spend my whole life trapped in emotional chaos just because somebody loved me intensely. And Riley gives you that stability. Yes. Tate looked down briefly before nodding once to himself. Of course he does. Noah frowned. What's that supposed to mean? It means Riley makes sense for the version of you that Joey wanted to protect. Noah's face tightened again. You always do this. You make it sound like every choice I make couldn't possibly belong to me. Because half the time I don't know if it does. Tate's voice lowered. I don't know where Joey's voice in your head ends and yours begins. Noah looked furious. My choices are my own. Are they? Yes. Then why do you bring Joey into every argument about us? Noah opened his mouth immediately, then hesitated. Tate noticed. There, he said quietly, that looks right there. Noah's chest tightened. You still use him like a compass. Because he loved me. And because trusting him is easier than trusting yourself. No, Noah whispered. Tate stepped closer again, eyes locked onto his. Or maybe it's easier than trusting me. Noah was shocked by Tate's words. Tate stepped forward, pointing an accusing finger. You and Joey were always whispering about me. You practically worshipped him. Because he earned my trust. Tate scoffed loudly. There it is again, Joey the saint, Joey the protector, Joey the wise older man who always knew better than everybody else. You're twisting this because you're jealous. Tate's face darkened. That's not all it was. That's what Joey noticed, Noah continued. Not some evil conspiracy against you. He noticed I was drowning trying to manage your feelings all the time. Tate's expression tightened. You really believe he was innocent in all this? I think he cared whether I survived you. The sentence knocked the air out of the room. Tate stared at him. Noah's breathing trembled now, tears threatening again. You know what's sad? Joey never even tried to make me hate you. Tate frowned slightly. He didn't, Noah wiped angrily at his eyes. Even after everything, he still told me you loved me in your own messed up way. Tate looked genuinely caught off guard by that. But he also told me love isn't supposed to consume your entire life, Noah added quietly. And with you, it always did. Tate's anger flickered uncertainly for the first time. You make people orbit you, Noah said. Your emotions become the center of every room. Joey hated that because he thought eventually I'd disappear into it. I never wanted you to disappear. But you wanted all of me, Noah's voice cracked, all the time. Silence stretched between them. Tate stared at Noah for a long moment, chest rising unevenly, before something bitter finally broke loose in him. You loved Joey more than you ever loved me. Noah blinked in disbelief. What? I can see it in your eyes. Tate's voice had gone rough and accusatory again. Joey was your hero, your idol. He could do no wrong. Tears fell from Tate's eyes. Noah grimaced immediately. My relationship with Joey. No, Tate cut him off sharply, shaking his head. Don't call it a relationship like this is some balanced, healthy thing I'm misunderstanding. Noah's eyebrows shot upward. Excuse me. You worshipped him? Tate pointed toward Noah again. Everything Joey said mattered more than what anybody else thought, especially me. That's not true. It is, Tate laughed bitterly. You looked at him like he hung the moon. Noah folded his arms tightly across his chest. You're making this weird. It was weird. No, Tate, what's weird is how obsessed you are with proving Joey somehow manipulated me just because I loved him. Tate stepped closer. Because you didn't just love him, you trusted him blindly. Maybe because he earned that trust. And nothing he ever did could shake it. That's what happens when somebody consistently shows up for you. Tate scoffed loudly. There it is again, Joey the saint. I never said he was a saint. You didn't have to. Tate's eyes narrowed. You defend him like your life depends on it. Noah stared at him for a second before laughing in disbelief. Oh my God. What? You're still jealous after all these years. Tate's jaw tightened immediately. You absolutely are, Noah pointed at him now, almost incredulous at how obvious it suddenly felt. You were always jealous of Joey. What's ridiculous is you standing here competing with a dead man. Noah shook his head slowly, pieces clicking together in his mind. That's why you hated how close we were. Tate's silence said enough. Noah let out another disbelieving laugh. Wow. Don't. You couldn't stand that there was someone else I cared about deeply. That's not what this is. Yes, it is, Noah's voice rose. Tate, you got jealous anytime anybody took up space in my head or my heart. That is not true. Really? Noah stepped closer to now, anger replacing the hurt in his expression. What about Mark? What about Riley? What about Joey? Every single time somebody mattered to me, you found reasons to resent them. Because they pulled you away from me. The confession slipped out too fast. Both of them froze slightly afterward. Noah stared at him. There it is. Tate looked away briefly, frustrated with himself. You really do hear yourself right? Noah asked. You say things like that and still wonder why Joey worried about me. Tate rubbed a hand over his face. You don't understand what it felt like. What? Watching you give pieces of yourself to everyone else while I got whatever was left. Noah looked genuinely stunned by that answer. Tate, he frowned, you're talking about me like I belong to you. I'm talking about loving you. No, you're talking about possession. Tate's expression hardened again. You think Joey didn't possess parts of you emotionally. No, Noah shot back instantly. Joey cared about me without trying to consume me. Tate laughed bitterly under his breath. That's because Joey already had your loyalty, he never had to fight for it. Noah shook his head. Nobody should have to fight for basic trust. You gave it to him automatically. Because he was family. And I wasn't. The quietness of that response caught Noah off guard. Tate looked away again before continuing, voice rougher now. Joey could mess up, disappear for days, drink too much, make reckless decisions, and you'd still forgive him instantly because you loved him. Because he never made me feel unsafe emotionally. Tate visibly flinched, but Noah kept going. You know what Joey never did? Noah asked quietly. He never made me feel guilty for loving other people too. The room fell silent. Tate's breathing slowed, but the tension in him only seemed tighter. Noah stared at him carefully now, like he was finally seeing something he hadn't fully understood before. You hated sharing space in my life, Noah said softly. Tate didn't answer. You wanted to be the person I loved most. Still silence. Tate. I wanted to matter, Tate snapped suddenly. You did matter. Not like Joey. Noah blinked. Tate laughed once bitterly at the expression on Noah's face. See, that looks right there. Even now you can't believe somebody would feel threatened by him. Threatened, Noah repeated. He was my uncle. And your emotional center, Tate's eyes locked onto his. Every important decision in your life somehow circled back to what Joey thought, what Joey wanted, what Joey would approve of. Because his opinion mattered to me. More than mine ever did. That's not true. It is. Tate stepped closer again. You'd forgive Joey instantly for things you'd crucify me for. Noah frowned because Joey apologized when he hurt people. That's not fair. No, Noah scoffed softly. You want honesty half the time. You acted like your feelings alone should erase the damage you caused. Tate looked away sharply. And Joey didn't make every disagreement feel like the end of the world, Noah added. Something wounded crossed Tate's face. Noah immediately regretted seeing it. But only for a second. You know what I think, Noah said more quietly now. I think part of you hated Joey because he made it harder for you to isolate me emotionally. Tate's eyes snapped back to him. I never tried to isolate you. You did without realizing it. Noah's voice trembled slightly now. Every relationship I had became some test of loyalty to you. That's not true. You made me feel guilty anytime somebody else mattered too much. I was scared. The honesty in Tate's voice made Noah pause. Tate looked exhausted now, anger mixing with something more vulnerable underneath. I was scared, he repeated, quieter, because every time you got close to somebody else I felt myself losing you. Noah swallowed hard. And Joey, Tate laughed weakly to himself, Joey already had parts of you I could never touch. Noah's expression softened despite himself. Tate. I hated how easy it was for him. Tate looked down briefly. He didn't even have to try, you already adored him. He earned that. I know, Tate nodded once, frustrated tears almost threatening his composure now. That's what made it worse. I think he hated me because he knew if you ever loved me completely, he wouldn't be the most important person in your life anymore. No, Noah whispered immediately, that's not true. Maybe not consciously, Tate admitted, but Joey liked being needed by you. He loved me. I know he did, Tate's voice softened for the first time in minutes. I know that. Noah's anger faltered slightly at hearing that. But I loved you too, Tate said quietly. And sometimes it felt like I was always going to come second to the version of safety Joey represented. Noah rubbed tiredly at his face. You're comparing completely different kinds of love. Am I? Yes, Noah laughed again in disbelief. Tate, he was family. And I wanted to be more. The room fell silent again. Noah's throat tightened unexpectedly. Tate stepped closer one final time, eyes fixed on him with painful intensity. You can deny it all you want, he said quietly, but part of you still measures people against Joey before you let yourself trust them. Noah looked away. And I think part of you resents me, Tate continued, because no matter how much you loved him, Joey could never make you feel what I do. Noah's breathing caught slightly. Tate noticed immediately. There, he whispered, that's why Joey hated me. Joey saw me as competition. Noah stared at him in disbelief. Competition, Tate, he was my uncle. He wasn't your uncle, Tate's voice sharpened suddenly, he was mine. The room went still. Tate stepped closer, anger and old resentment bleeding together now. You forget something, Noah. His eyes narrowed. You're not a blue. Noah's face hardened immediately. There it was. The line neither of them liked crossing. Noah let out a slow breath through his nose, seriously. You throw Joey in my face like you understand what growing up with him was actually like. I understood him just fine. No, you understood the version he showed you, Tate pointed toward himself. I grew up with him. I watched people clean up after his mistakes for years. And I watched him take care of me when nobody else did. Tate scoffed sharply because he liked rescuing people. And you liked punishing them. That's not fair. No, Noah laughed bitterly. You just told me I'm not really family. I didn't say that. You implied it. You're not family. Tate's voice was quiet now, but there was something wounded underneath it. You don't understand what family means to people like us. Being born into a wealthy family isn't the same as being part of an ordinary family. For people like us, families are dynasties. We protect each other. We move together like a finely tuned machine. Noah watched him carefully. Family is supposed to be the one thing you can trust, Tate continued. The only people you can tell your secrets to, the only people you can be completely yourself around, because when you're rich, everyone else has a reason to want something from you. His jaw tightened. They can use your money against you, your name, your reputation, your mistakes, but family is supposed to be different. Family is supposed to protect you. Tate looked directly at Noah. You're not a blue, you weren't raised inside that. Noah's expression hardened. You don't understand what it means to have someone from your own family choose you over everyone else. Tate's voice cracked slightly. You took my uncle away from me. Noah went still. I never blamed you, Tate said quickly. Not really, I told myself I didn't. He looked down. I thought maybe I'd disappointed him, maybe I wasn't enough for him anymore, maybe I did something wrong and he found someone better. His eyes lifted toward Noah. Then there was you. Noah swallowed. You thought he replaced you with me, Tate. The words finally exposed the wound beneath all the anger. You had his attention, his affection, his time. You became important to him and I convinced myself that meant there was less left for me. Tate's voice dropped to a whisper. I wasn't angry because you took something from me. He paused. I was angry because I was terrified that he chose you because you were better than I was. Noah sniffled, but Tate continued. If I ever find out that you actually slept with Linus or with my Uncle Joey, I will never forgive you. Noah looked at him. I don't care what you think is normal now, there are some lines you don't cross. You don't get involved with your buddy's uncle or his godfather, you don't date your best friend's ex, you don't get involved with your sister's boyfriend. Some boundaries exist for a reason. His voice tightened. That is one thing I don't think I'll ever be able to get past. Tate looked away for a moment. Joey used to joke about it, he'd tease me for years and I hated it even when I pretended I didn't, but if I found out you'd actually been with someone like that. He swallowed. That would hurt more than you understand. Noah remained silent. I could forgive a lot of things, Tate said. But knowing that you crossed a line like that with someone I considered family would be one of the hardest things I've ever had to accept. His eyes returned to Noah. Because it wouldn't just be about who you were with, it would feel like you knew exactly where the line was and crossed it anyway. Tate opened his mouth, but Noah cut him off before he could speak. You know what's funny? Noah asked quietly. Joey never made me feel like that. Tate visibly stiffened. He never once acted like I was temporary, Noah swallowed hard. He never made me feel bored. You were never borrowed. Then why did you block my adoption? Silence. Heavy, immediate. Tate stared at him. Noah laughed once shakily when Tate didn't answer. Yeah, exactly. That situation was complicated. No, it wasn't, Noah's eyes filled again. I wanted a family, Joey wanted me to be officially part of the family and you fought it. I was trying to protect you. From what, having a last name? Tate's jaw tightened. You were young, nobody knew what the right decision was. No, Noah shook his head slowly. Joey knew. Joey acted emotionally. Joey loved me. And I loved you too. The sudden force behind Tate's voice shook the room into silence. Noah stared at him. Tate looked furious now, but beneath it was something more desperate. "You think blocking the adoption meant I didn't care about you?" Tate asked. "You really think it was that simple?" "What else was I supposed to think?" Noah shot back. "I remember overhearing arguments, Tate. I remember Joey yelling that you didn't get to decide where I belonged." Tate looked away sharply. "And deep down," Noah laughed bitterly, "I think you hated the idea of me officially becoming part of the family because then Joey would have mattered to me permanently in a way you couldn't control." "That's not true." "It feels true." Tate rubbed both hands over his face before answering. "You don't understand what that time was actually like." "Then explain it." Tate hesitated. Noah folded his arms tightly. "Go ahead." Tate exhaled slowly. "You were already attached to Joey, completely attached, and Tate paused carefully. "Joey got emotionally reckless when he loved people." Noah frowned immediately. Emotionally reckless. He'd promise things without thinking long-term. He'd make emotional decisions and assume love would magically solve everything. "That sounds a lot like you." The words hit hard enough to make Tate briefly go silent. Noah continued before he could recover. "The difference is Joey made me feel wanted." Noah's voice softened painfully. "You made me feel like a problem." "That's not what I wanted." "But it's what happened." Noah looked down briefly. "I still remember hearing your mom believing you did it on purpose so the adoption would be prevented." Tate's expression shifted with guilt. "You know how that sounded to a kid?" Noah asked quietly. "Like loving me officially was too much trouble." "Noah." "No, let me finish." Noah wiped angrily at his face. "Joey fought for me, you fought against it, so forgive me if I trusted him more." Tate looked exhausted suddenly. "I wasn't trying to erase you," he said quietly. "Then what were you trying to do?" Tate hesitated too long. Noah laughed bitterly again. "Exactly. I was scared," Tate admitted finally. Noah frowned. Tate looked away before continuing. "Scared that Joey would make promises he couldn't keep, scared that if things fell apart you'd be the one hurt most." "You mean scared because you thought I'd love him more than you?" Tate didn't answer immediately. Which was answer enough. Noah closed his eyes briefly in disbelief. "God. It wasn't only that. But it was part of it." Tate's silence stretched again. "You were jealous," Noah whispered. Tate gave a weak, humorless laugh. "You have no idea how hard it was watching the two of you together." Noah stared at him. "You trusted Joey completely," Tate said quietly, "and no matter what I did I always felt outside of it." "You put yourself outside of it." "Maybe," Tate nodded faintly, "but Joey knew exactly how important he was to you, and sometimes I think he liked reminding me." Noah shook his head immediately. "No, Joey wanted us to get along. Because he thought I'd eventually hurt you if we didn't." Noah looked away. Tate stepped closer again, voice lower now. "You know what the worst part is?" he asked quietly. "What?" "I think Joey genuinely loved you," Tate swallowed once. "Which means every time he looked at me like I was dangerous, part of him probably believed it." Noah stared at him for a long moment, chest rising unevenly. Then suddenly he laughed. Not happily. In disbelief. "Oh my God," Noah muttered, shaking his head. "You really were jealous of Joey." Tate was already spiraling deeper into it now, years of resentment finally surfacing. "You'd light up every time he walked into a room," Tate snapped. "Do you even realize that?" Noah froze slightly. "You'd smile differently around him," Tate's voice roughened. "You'd blush whenever people teased you about how attached you were to him." Noah's cheeks immediately turned pink again, whether from embarrassment or anger, even he probably didn't know. Tate noticed instantly. "There," Tate pointed accusingly, "that looks right there." "Oh, shut up. You're blushing. Because you're making something innocent sound weird." Tate laughed bitterly. "Innocent, Noah, you practically worshipped him." "I loved him. And you loved the way he made you feel." "Everybody loved Joey. Not like you did." The statement landed harder than Noah expected. His face flushed deeper. Not because Tate was right, but because Tate was taking something deeply emotional and making it feel ugly. You know what? Noah snapped. This is exactly why people couldn't stand talking to you when you got like this. Tate ignored the insult completely. You'd stare at him like he hung the moon, he continued. Every joke he made, every opinion he had, you absorbed it like gospel. Because he mattered to me. And I didn't. You did, Noah exploded, but loving you was exhausting. Silence crashed into the room. Tate stared at him. Noah's breathing shook as soon as the words left his mouth. You made everything feel intense all the time, Noah continued more quietly. With Joey, things felt easy. Tate's jaw tightened hard. Of course they did, he muttered. Joey got the version of you that wasn't terrified all the time. That's because Joey didn't make me afraid of disappointing him. The hurt on Tate's face appeared instantly. But Noah was too angry to stop now. You were jealous of anybody who took up space in my life, Noah said. Friends, boyfriends, Joey, it didn't matter. I was scared of losing you. You don't own me. I know that. Do you? Noah shouted. Because every conversation with you turns into this emotional tug-of-war where I have to prove you matter enough. Tate ran a hand through his hair aggressively. You don't understand what it felt like watching you run to Joey every time we fought. Because he made me feel sane. And I made you feel alive. The room went still again. Noah looked away immediately. Tate noticed. There it is, Tate whispered. Tate's whole body was shaking with fury and jealousy. Do you know what my uncles and aunts used to call you when you weren't around? Noah looked at him confused. No. He had no idea where Tate was going with this. Tate swallowed hard. They used to make jokes about you and Joey. Noah's expression changed. Uncle Tim used to call you Mrs. Joseph Blue. Noah gasped. What? Tate nodded. They thought you and Uncle Joey were so close that you might as well have been his fiancé. Noah stared at him in disbelief. Are you serious? Dead serious. Tate's jaw tightened. They'd laugh about it, they'd make comments whenever you were around. They'd joke that Joey had practically adopted you, that you spent so much time together that you were more like his partner than his nephew's friend. Noah shook his head slowly. I never knew. Of course you didn't. Tate's voice was bitter. They never said it to your face, it was something they joked about when you weren't there. Noah looked at him stunned. And you heard all of it. I heard everything. Tate's eyes were filled with an old resentment Noah was only beginning to understand. And every time they called you Mrs. Joseph Blue, I hated it. Why? Tate looked at him. Because some part of me was terrified they were right about one thing. Noah's brow furrowed. That you belonged with Joey instead of me. The confession left Noah speechless. Tate went on, his voice thick with old resentment. Why wouldn't I believe you slept with him? Everyone in my family made jokes about you and Joey, everyone. Noah stared at him. They called you his fiancé, Tate continued. But what if that was just the convenient explanation? What if that was how Joey covered up whatever was really going on between you two? No. Noah's answer came immediately. Tate barely seemed to hear him. He could have driven all the way out there, he could have flown across the country once you were 18, you could have had some secret relationship nobody knew about. Tate, that's insane. You probably laughed about it behind my back. I never. Why didn't you marry him? Noah's mouth fell open. What? You weren't related to him, he was only 10 years older than you. Why didn't you become Mrs. Joseph Blue? Noah stared at him as though Tate had just suggested something completely incomprehensible. Because he was my friend, Noah said, because he was family to me, because that's not what we were. Tate's expression remained hard. Were you afraid? Afraid of what? Of being openly gay, what would people say? No. Or maybe, Tate continued, his voice becoming quieter, you had some sentimental attachment to me. Maybe you knew that marrying him would humiliate me in the society columns. Noah shook his head in disbelief. Tate, listen to yourself. I am listening. You're taking jokes your family made and turning them into an entire secret history that never existed. Tate said nothing. Noah's eyes filled with tears. You actually believe I was secretly involved with Joey all those years? Tate looked away. I didn't know what to believe. You could have asked me. I was afraid of the answer. Noah stared at him. And suddenly he understood. Tate hadn't spent 20 years knowing the truth. He had spent 20 years terrified of it. Well, the joke's on you, Tate said bitterly. Joey never would have married you because he was already in love with someone else, a girl he met when he was 10 years old. Noah frowned. Did Joey ever tell you about his childhood sweetheart, some auburn-haired woman he waited 25 years to marry? Noah shook his head. Tate gave a humorless laugh. He waited 25 years for her, and then she fell in love with someone else and married the other guy, leaving poor Uncle Joey alone in his early 30s. Tate. Personally, I think her leaving him was probably karma. Noah stared at him. For the way he treated me. Tate continued, his own nephew, he acted like I was something he could put on a shelf and visit whenever it was convenient. His voice became sharper. He abandoned me and then acted like I was supposed to be grateful whenever he remembered I existed. Noah's expression softened slightly. I know he only came across the ocean every month to see you. Noah went still. At least by the time I was 13 or 14 I knew he loved you, Tate said. That much was obvious. Tate, he loved you too. Maybe. Tate looked away. But he loved you differently. Noah shook his head. That doesn't mean. He just happened to see me because I was next to you, Tate interrupted. That's how it always felt. The bitterness in his voice surprised Noah. You were the reason he came, I was just the kid standing beside you. Noah swallowed. That wasn't true. It was true to me. Tate's voice dropped. And when you're a kid, Noah, it doesn't take much to convince you that you're someone's second choice. Noah stared at him, realizing that beneath all of Tate's jealousy was an old wound he had carried for decades. Tate hadn't simply hated Joey. He had spent years believing Joey had chosen Noah over him. Tate. His voice became sharper. He abandoned me and then acted like I was supposed to be grateful whenever he remembered I existed. Noah's expression softened slightly. I know he only came across the ocean every month to see you. Noah went still. At least by the time I was 13 or 14 I knew he loved you, Tate said. That much was obvious. Noah shook his head. That doesn't mean. He just happened to see me because I was next to you, Tate interrupted. That's how it always felt. The bitterness in his voice surprised Noah. You were the reason he came, I was just the kid standing beside you. Noah swallowed. That wasn't true. It was true to me. Tate's voice dropped. And when you're a kid, Noah, it doesn't take much to convince you that you're someone's second choice. Noah stared at him, realizing that beneath all of Tate's jealousy was an old wound he had carried for decades. Tate hadn't simply hated Joey. He had spent years believing Joey had chosen Noah over him. Thinking about you being with my uncle makes me want to throw up, Tate said, so it's better never have happened, and you better not have ever seriously considered it. Noah stared at him. You sexually involved with my male members of my family make me want to gouge my eyes out. It's disgusting. It feels like you're getting involved with blood. Tate, listen to yourself. What is wrong with you? Tate demanded. We took you in, we treated you like family, we trusted you, and you repay that kindness by getting involved with my family. Noah's expression hardened. First of all, you don't get to rewrite what happened just because you're uncomfortable with it. Second, you keep talking about your family as though everyone connected to the blue name automatically belongs to you. They're my family. And that doesn't make them yours to control. Tate went silent. No one betrayed you by having their own life, Noah continued. And nobody owes you romantic or sexual exclusivity simply because they're related to you. Tate's jaw tightened. You're angry because you imagined something happening and convinced yourself it was real. Noah shook his head. You've spent years punishing me for things I never did. Tate looked away. And that's the part you need to understand, Noah said. Your jealousy doesn't turn your fears into facts. No, Tate said firmly. If I ever found out you were actually involved with my uncle or with anyone else in my family, it would feel like emotional incest to me. That would be an absolute turnoff. Noah stared at him. If I moved into your house and lived with your family, I wouldn't start making advances toward your mother, Noe, or anyone else in your family. I have boundaries. Tate shook his head. You don't blur those lines, you don't turn family into something else, you don't shit or fuck where you eat. Everybody knows that, Noah. Noah studied him for a moment. So this isn't about you believing I betrayed you, he said. It's about the boundaries you have around family. Exactly. And you expect me to respect those boundaries even if I don't share all of your assumptions about them. Yes. Noah nodded slowly. Then you need to understand something, Tate. Your boundaries are yours, you don't get to turn them into rules for everyone else. Tate's expression remained guarded. But I can understand why the idea bothers you, Noah added. What I won't accept is being accused of something I didn't do simply because you spent 20 years imagining it. Tate cleared his throat, trying to keep his nausea down. No, Noah backed away into the hallway. I'm done listening to you trash Joey because you couldn't handle not being the most important person in my life. I never needed to be the most important. Yes, you did. Tate stopped moving. Noah laughed bitterly through tears. That's the saddest part, you still don't even realize it. Then Noah turned and stormed down the hallway. Tate followed immediately. Noah. Noah ignored him, moving faster toward the stairs. I'm serious, leave me alone. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. Noah reached the bottom of the stairs and grabbed his jacket tighter around himself, but Tate caught up quickly, grabbing his wrist before Noah could reach the front door. Let go of me. No. Tate. Hey, look at me. Noah reluctantly met Tate's eyes. Did you sleep with anyone in my family? Tate demanded, especially Uncle Joey. Noah immediately pulled away. That's none of your business. Tate's expression hardened. As long as I was 18, it was consensual and it was between consenting adults. It has nothing to do with you. So you did. I didn't say that. Then did you? Noah shook his head. I'm not saying I did and I'm not saying I didn't. Tate stared at him, frustrated. Noah. I didn't do anything to hurt you, Noah said firmly. And if something did happen, I certainly didn't do it because I wanted to get a reaction out of you. Tate's jaw tightened. That's supposed to make me feel better. No, it's supposed to make you understand that my life wasn't a 20-year-long attempt to provoke you. Tate fell silent. Noah held his gaze. You don't get to turn every decision I made before you finally admitted what you wanted into an act of betrayal. Don't give me that, Tate said. Noah looked at him. Susie told me on the phone that Linus tried to seduce you in the shower. She also told me that you left and turned him down. Tate's jaw tightened. So don't stand there and act like I don't know what happened. Noah remained silent. If that bastard weren't dead, Tate continued, his voice dropping dangerously low, I'd have a few things to say to him while I wrap my fingers around his throat. He took a breath, visibly struggling to contain his anger. I'd make damn sure he understood that trying to take advantage of you wasn't something I was going to overlook. Noah stared at him. Tate, I turned him down. I know. Then why are you angry with me? I'm not angry with you. Noah raised an eyebrow. You're furious. Tate looked away. I'm furious that someone thought he could treat you that way. Linus didn't take advantage of me, Noah explained. Tate's expression remained furious. He was just getting a towel from the 4th-floor bathroom at your parents' house. He asked if I wanted to join him, that's all. He didn't grab me or pull me into the bathroom. Noah shook his head. He asked, just like you've asked women at parties if they wanted to leave with you. He gave me a choice and when I said no, he respected it. Tate stepped closer. He didn't force me, he didn't coerce me, he didn't manipulate me. He asked, I said no, and he just what? Tate demanded. Saliva glistened at the corner of his mouth as he stared at Noah, his anger barely contained. He just asked me twice, Noah said. He wanted to make sure I wasn't going to change my mind, that's all. Tate's expression remained hard. Linus was attractive, Noah admitted. Especially for his age, he was in his early 50s and honestly it was flattering that he was interested in me, but I'm not attracted to men 25 years older than me. He paused. And maybe I didn't tell you because I knew exactly how you'd react. Tate's eyes narrowed. I knew how jealous and territorial you could get. I didn't want something that harmless to become another complication between us. Tate stared at him for several seconds. Then his voice dropped to a hiss. What about Joey? It's none of your business, Noah said. Tate stared at him. You can wait. Noah. You made me wait. Tate's expression shifted. You made me wait 10 years before finally telling me that Wayne didn't matter to you. 10 years before you admitted he wasn't your lover and that I'd been wrong about what I thought I was seeing. Noah shook his head. So maybe I'll return the favor. Tate's eyes narrowed. I'll make you wait 10 years to find out about Joey. You wouldn't. Noah gave him a small, bitter smile. Wouldn't I? Tate took a step toward him. Noah, that's not funny. Neither was waiting 10 years for an answer. Tate fell silent. You taught me how this works, Noah continued. You taught me that when someone wants an answer badly enough you can keep them waiting simply because you aren't ready to give it. He held Tate's gaze. So now you can wait. For 10 years. Maybe. And what am I supposed to do for 10 years? Noah shrugged. Wonder. Tate's jaw clenched. For once, Noah had managed to give Tate exactly what Tate had given him for years, uncertainty. Noah smiled and there was something almost wickedly petty about it. For once in your life you get to know what it feels like to be treated as though answers are optional. Tate stared at him. I don't owe you anything, we're not even really buddies anymore. Noah paused. Well, I guess we are technically since we made up after you threw me to the floor when you found out I was gay, but that doesn't give you the right to demand answers from me. Tate's expression tightened. None of my other friends screams at me, holds me down, and demands to know whether I've been with their uncle. Don't push me, Noah. Noah's smile widened. Oh, I'm absolutely going to push you. Tate's eyes narrowed. So while you're sitting there imagining me with Uncle Joey, maybe I'll start wondering about it too. Tate went completely still. Maybe I'll wonder what it would have been like if something had happened. His jaw clenched. Or maybe I'll wonder what it would have been like if nothing happened at all. Noah. The warning in Tate's voice was unmistakable. Noah only smiled. See, now you're jealous of something you don't even know happened. Tate's nostrils flared. And that's exactly the point. Noah folded his arms. For once, Tate, you're going to have to live with not knowing. Tate looked furious. And Noah couldn't deny that, after 20 years of unanswered questions, there was something deeply satisfying about watching Tate finally understand how uncertainty felt. You're being childish, Tate said, petty, mean-spirited, you just want revenge. He pointed at Noah, his finger jabbing against Noah's chest. Noah shook his head. You can call it whatever you want, but for the first time in your life, Tate, I'm not going to let you have double standards. Tate opened his mouth but Noah continued. You spent my entire life acting like it wasn't important when I asked you, sometimes in the middle of the night, who Wayne was. You told me to turn over and go to sleep. Noah gave him a pointed look. So I'm going to tell you the same thing now, turn over and go to sleep. Tate's jaw tightened. You want to live your life by certain standards and expectations? Fine, I'll match your energy. Noah stepped closer. You've spent years acting like you're an open book. You're not, you're a closed book who keeps insisting he's transparent. I never. You lied to me about that too. Tate fell silent. So don't come crying to me when I do exactly what you've been doing to me for years. Noah's voice became calmer, which somehow made the words sting more. My therapist says that sometimes you have to match people's energy, meet them where they are. He shrugged. Well, this is where you are. Tate stared at him. You don't want to tell me the truth? Fine, I'm not doing you any favors by giving you answers you refuse to give me. Noah stepped back. And if you don't like what you're receiving, maybe you shouldn't have spent years throwing it at other people. He paused at the door. Don't dish out bad, toxic behavior towards someone if you can't handle having it thrown right back at your face, bitch. Tate stared after him, speechless. For once, Noah hadn't asked Tate for an explanation. He had simply stopped giving him one. If you don't like what you get back when people meet you where you are today, then you have no one to blame but yourself. Noah's voice was steady now. You taught me that I wasn't worth explaining things to. You taught me that I wasn't worth an honest answer. You taught me that I was only worth an apology when you needed something from me. Tate's expression tightened. And an apology given because you don't want to freeze to death isn't really an apology, Tate, especially when there's an expectation of physical access afterward. Tate looked away. You taught me that your apologies came with conditions. You'd say you were sorry, but there was always something you wanted in return. Noah shook his head. And now you want me to answer every question you're demanding answers to. He laughed bitterly. No. Tate looked back at him. You don't get to force honesty out of me just because you've suddenly decided you deserve it. Noah stepped closer. You want answers. His eyes hardened. Then make me a bitch. Tate frowned. Noah held his gaze. That's what you taught me to do, isn't it? Push until I get what I want, demand, insist, refuse to accept no. He shook his head. I'm not becoming you. A beat passed. But if you want those answers badly enough, Tate, you're going to have to learn something you should have learned 20 years ago. Noah's voice softened. People don't owe you access just because you want it. Tate snarled at Noah. You don't get to walk away after saying things like that. Noah jerked against his grip. Watch me, bitch, and move your fat ass out of my way. What's your name again? Oh, it doesn't matter. Tate pulled him back before Noah could move again. The momentum spun Noah around sharply into Tate's chest. For one suspended second, neither of them moved. Noah could feel Tate breathing hard. Could feel the tension in the hand still wrapped around his wrist. You think I was jealous? Tate asked quietly. You were. Tate stared at him with something raw and frustrated burning in his expression. Maybe I was, he admitted. Noah blinked slightly. Because Joey got the soft parts of you, Tate's voice lowered, and I got every wall you ever built. Noah's anger faltered for half a second. Then Tate kissed him. Hard. Impulsive. Like he was trying to silence every argument at once. Noah shoved against his chest immediately, but Tate's other hand caught his waist before he could fully pull away. The kiss deepened for one dangerous second anyway. Then Noah broke free sharply, breathing unevenly. What is wrong with you? Noah whispered. Tate looked just as shaken as Noah felt. But he still didn't let go completely. You storm out every time things become real, Tate said quietly. Noah stared at him in disbelief. You think kissing me fixes this? No. Then why do it? Tate's eyes moved across Noah's face slowly, painfully. Because you keep talking about Joey like he's the only person who ever truly knew you, Tate whispered, and I can't stand it. Noah sidestepped Tate by the downstairs banister before Tate could grab him again and walked quickly into the living room, where Riley stood quietly studying the framed photographs lining the walls. Riley turned at the sound of footsteps, immediately noticing Noah's flushed face and uneven breathing. You okay? Riley asked carefully. Before Noah could answer, Talia let out a long sigh from behind them. You two almost came through the upper floorboards, she muttered, shaking her head. What were you doing up there, wrestling each other? Noah nearly choked. Tate looked away immediately in a gleeful, smug shirk of his head. Or pummeling each other, Talia added dryly, crossing her arms, because whatever it was sounded dramatic. It was nothing, Noah said too fast. Tate scowled at Noah. Talia gave him a knowing look that made Noah's face heat further. She glanced between the two men. Well, Riley has been waiting forever for his tour of the house. Riley smiled politely. No rush. No, Talia waved a hand dismissively. Tate, would you be a dear and show him around while I talk to Noah? Tate's expression immediately flattened. The absolute last thing he wanted was to spend time alone with Riley. Riley, calm, stable, painfully polite, who somehow had a ring on Noah's finger while Tate stood there still burning from kissing him seconds ago. Tate looked at Riley like he was an intruder standing inside a life that should have belonged to somebody else. I think Riley would enjoy it more if Noah gave the tour, Tate said coolly. Noah shot him a warning look instantly. Talia noticed. Oh, stop, she pointed toward the staircase. You need to get to know Riley a bit, go on upstairs and give him the grand blue family history. Tate visibly resisted the idea. Every instinct in him rejected it. He hated Riley's calm posture, hated the quiet confidence, hated how naturally Riley stood beside Noah like he already belonged there. Most of all, Tate hated that Riley didn't seem threatened. Like he truly believed Noah would choose him in the end. Mom. No arguments, Talia narrowed her eyes, and when you're done, Riley can drive Noah home. Actually, I'll drive Noah home, Tate interrupted immediately. Noah stared at him in disbelief. Talia did too. There are a few things I still want to talk to him about. Oh, absolutely not, Talia said instantly. If you're going to jump on him again, you can do it under someone else's roof. Riley blinked in confusion. Noah nearly died on the spot. Mom, Tate muttered sharply. What? Talia shrugged. You two sounded one emotional breakdown away from fist fighting upstairs. We were arguing. She gave him another deeply unimpressed look. And now you're glaring at Riley like he stole your inheritance. Tate said nothing, which was answer enough. Talia sighed again and hooked an arm through Noah's gently. Come on, you're helping me with dishes and cleanup in the kitchen before this house collapses under male tension. I can help, Riley offered politely. No, sweetheart, Talia waved him off warmly, you're the guest. Tate almost scoffed at the word guest. Because Riley didn't look like a guest standing there beneath the family portraits. He looked dangerously comfortable. Enjoy the tour, Noah said. He glanced toward Riley with a mischievous smile. I'm Tate's beneficiary, so when Tate dies we get the house. Riley's eyes perked up. Really? Tate glared at Riley. No way in hell. Riley laughed. Tate's mother looked between them and shook her head. That's no way to treat your brother's fiancée like that. Noah immediately choked on his water. Brother. The word hit him like a brick. He coughed into his hand, trying desperately to recover while everyone else continued talking. Tate glanced at him. Noah avoided his eyes. Because 30 minutes earlier, upstairs, the two of them had crossed a line that had absolutely nothing to do with brotherly behavior. And now Tate's mother was casually calling Noah his brother. Noah took another sip of water and nearly choked again. Tate leaned closer. You okay? Noah gave him a murderous look. Perfect. Tate's mouth twitched. He knew exactly why Noah was struggling not to laugh. And somehow that made it even worse. Riley turned back toward the photographs lining the wall while Noah disappeared reluctantly into the kitchen with Talia. There were dozens of framed moments. Old blue family vacations. Birthdays. Graduations. Summer houses. Boats. Smiling faces with the unmistakable ease of old money and shared history. And there, in several of the photos, was Joey. Laughing on a dock with a drink in his hand. Throwing an arm around a teenage Tate. Grinning beside Noah at what looked like a birthday dinner years ago. Riley studied that picture the longest. Noah looked younger there. Softer. Completely lit up standing beside Joey. Tate noticed immediately. Interesting photo, Tate asked flatly from behind him. Riley turned calmly, you can tell Noah loved him. Tate's jaw tightened. Yeah, he said quietly, he did. Riley glanced back at the wall again, Joey seems important to this family. Tate laughed once under his breath. That's one word for it. Tate stopped in front of one of the framed photographs of Noah and Joey from one of their teenage road trips. In the picture, they were laughing, arms around each other, looking completely carefree. Tate slowly raised his middle finger toward the photograph. Fucking nephew fucker, he muttered. Riley stared at him. Tate. What? Tate said, lowering his hand. I'm talking about the rumor. Riley's expression changed. The rumor that Joey and Noah were lovers. Tate nodded bitterly. Yeah, that one. Riley looked at the photograph again. You're still hung up on that. I've been hung up on it for years. It was a stupid rumor. I know. Then why are you treating it like evidence? Tate's jaw tightened. Because every time I see pictures of Noah and Joey together, I remember everyone joking that they were secretly in love. Riley sighed. Joey was Noah's family. I know. And he loved Noah. I know that too. Tate glanced back at the photograph. I just wish I could stop wondering whether there was something I didn't know. Riley looked at him quietly. There wasn't. Tate didn't answer. He just glared at the photograph one more time. Still hate the damn thing. Riley finally faced him fully now, sensing the bitterness underneath the response. You didn't get along with Joey, Riley observed carefully. Tate crossed his arms. You pick up on tension fast. I'm engaged to Noah, Riley's voice stayed polite but firm. I pay attention to things that upset him. That irritated Tate immediately. The protectiveness in Riley's tone. The certainty. The quiet confidence that he had a right to worry about Noah now. Welcome to the Blue Family Picture Gallery, Tate announced, sweeping one hand toward the photographs. He pointed toward the left side. The bastards are on the left. Then he gestured toward the right. The bitches are on the right and the cunts are in the middle. Riley stared at him. You're joking. Tate gave him a completely straight-faced look. Do I look like I'm joking? Noah covered his mouth, trying not to laugh. He was watching through the kitchen door, keeping an eye on Tate. Tate glanced at him. See, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Riley shook his head. Your family is insane. Welcome to the Blue family. Tate stepped closer slowly to Riley. You think you know him already. Riley held his gaze. I know he's hurting. Tate looked away sharply toward the wall of photos again. You have no idea what you're walking into, he muttered. Riley frowned slightly. What's that supposed to mean? Tate's eyes drifted toward the kitchen, where Noah's voice faintly carried through the house. Then back to Riley. It means, Tate said quietly, people love Noah until they realize how impossible it is to let him go. The feeling Tate felt toward Riley sat in the same ugly category as the feeling he carried toward Wayne Vaughn, quiet, insidious resentment wrapped in forced politeness. Not hatred. Hatred implied passion without restraint. This was colder. More calculating. Oh wait, Riley said, pointing toward a photograph beside Tate. Is that Chloe, your wife? Tate's expression immediately changed. She's beautiful, Riley continued, completely unaware he'd stepped onto dangerous ground. I love her blonde hair, she really stands out. He looked along the wall. Everyone in your family has black hair, she's the only person in all these pictures who doesn't. Riley smiled. Maybe when you two have kids they'll have blonde hair too, she's quite an anomaly, huh? Tate glared at him. Riley's smile slowly faded. What? Tate said nothing. Because Riley had just reminded him of something nobody in the house knew yet. Chloe wasn't his wife anymore. The annulment paperwork had already been filed. The marriage was ending, or, in Tate's mind, would soon be treated as though it had never existed. But his mother didn't know. His family didn't know. And Riley certainly didn't know. Tate looked at the photograph of Chloe on the wall. For a moment, the beautiful woman in the picture felt like a ghost from a life he had already abandoned. Yeah, Tate finally said flatly, an anomaly. Riley looked at him, sensing something was wrong. But Tate had already turned away from the photograph. Why isn't Noah on the wall? Riley asked, pointing toward the family photographs. He's a blue, isn't he? Tate was quick to correct him. No, he's not. Riley frowned. He's not an official blue, he's not a legal member of the family, so no, he's not on the wall. Riley looked surprised. But he's been around your family forever. I know. Tate's voice rose as he looked toward the kitchen, knowing his mother could hear him. And every year, my mother tries to add his photograph anyway. From the kitchen came the unmistakable sound of Talia moving around. Tate continued. Every year I take it down. Riley stared at him. You actually remove it? Yes. Why? Tate straightened. Because I'm the patriarch of this family now. Riley blinked. And the family rules are clear. If you're going to be represented on that wall, you have to legally carry the family name. He glanced toward the photographs. Noah doesn't. Talia's voice suddenly called from the kitchen. Tate. Tate ignored her. He's important to me, he said, his voice tightening. That doesn't make him a blue. Riley looked toward the kitchen, then back at Tate. I'm guessing your mother disagrees. Tate sighed. She always has. Over here, Tate said, pointing toward another portrait. This is the motherfucker of the family. Riley followed his finger and immediately recognized the stern-looking man in the portrait. That's my father, Terrence. Tate stared at the portrait. This was him when he met my mother. They were both in their early 20s. Riley nodded politely. My mother went to Europe back then to become a culinary artist, Tate continued. Of course, these days her career consists of arranging food she didn't cook from a cart the catering company sends her every day. She hasn't professionally cooked since she pooped me out of her vagina. Riley's eyes widened. Talia's voice barked from the kitchen. Tate. Before Tate could continue, Talia emerged from the kitchen and reached over, giving his ear a firm tug. Ow! Will you stop embarrassing the family? Just give Riley the tour.